So thank you for taking the time to drive all the way here to Eastern Idaho. It's a trip, and can you just tell us a little bit about why you've come here today?
Well, mostly we're to inform the public about our going back into session this coming Monday. We passed a law that binds us back in May that we would have to come back into session, the House, and to close out the books. And our thought process back in May was that it's the legislature's constitutional responsibility to appropriate the money. And we were getting a lot of federal money back then, and we did not want to allow, if we weren't there, then the executive branch would have appropriated that. And the legislature was not comfortable with that. And so we recessed, knowing that we would come back in before the end of the year. And so that's Monday. We will come in and we'll take care of some unfinished business. We will receive an ethics complaint from our ethics committee on one of our members. And then we'll seat our Ways and Means committee, and they will introduce a bunch of, I don't know how many at this point, but they'll introduce bills having to do with vaccine mandates, particularly the Biden administration's mandates to businesses and federal contractors, et cetera.
And to that, you say several things to contradict or in response to those mandates. There was an article going around a week ago, last week, saying that some of that legislation may be void. It may not impact in the future. What would your response be to that?
Well, number one, we're not going to be there long. We will only take up those things that cannot be pushed into the next session. The regular session will start on January 10th. It's not that far away. And so we'll only take up those things that are immediate, that have immediate urgency. And the Biden administration's mandates have focused our energy nearly to a person, certainly the Republicans. And I think if the Democrats were honest, they're a little iffy about these types of mandates. So that's what we'll take up, are those types of bills. I mean, there's unfinished business in property taxes and roads and education, et cetera. But this is not the time nor the place. In addition, we want to preserve our process. We want to have a good public vetting of the issue. But we want to be done also by Wednesday. And so if we get too much on the plate, then we short circuit our process, which includes the public, and we do not want to do that. And so I think there'll be a limited amount of bills that pass. We'll introduce them all so that all of these good ideas will now have bill numbers and they'll be out in the public domain. But the ones that will advance will be those ones that are more urgent in nature. And so all of our committee chairmen, they set their own agendas. They understand this urgency. They understand the need to be done in an expeditious way. Again, by allowing for public input on the ones that they do deem as urgent. But we've got to be also cognizant of the taxpayer here and not be in there too long. And I describe too long as anything past Wednesday.
So 3 days.
3
you're
days.
In and out. And you mentioned something too, talking and focusing on those that already have some support. You told people to be ready,
right?
Have all of the wrinkles ironed out of those bills before they come to next week. What would you say to those that are concerned that this may be rushed, that it's coming in without much discussion or thought?
Well, then they haven't been watching, they haven't been listening, they haven't been reading the East Idaho News. Again, there'll be a lot of ideas out there. We will winnow those down to the ones that are the most urgent, and those will be the ones we take up. Because if we get too many, we can't do the proper due diligence through the committee process, and we do not want to short circuit that.
Is there anything else you want the people of Idaho, not just Eastern Idaho, to know going into next week?
Well, number one, that we're grateful for all of the input. I mean, Idaho citizens are not bashful, and we've received a lot of phone calls, emails, texts, etc., and we hope to be responsive to them. Since last May, no one could have anticipated the federal government coming in with the mandates that they have. We believe that is clearly across the line, that medical decisions need to be made between you and your medical provider, not you and your government. And when the federal government steps in to force that, Idaho as a sovereign state needs to step up and provide for ways to block that. Now as a state, we have filed lawsuits, and we've been successful here over the weekend on blocking in the Fifth Circuit down in New Orleans. We were successful in staying part of the Biden's mandates, and we're hopeful that in this coming week that we'll receive similar type stays. But until and unless we do, then we will we'll be ready here to do everything we can, because we believe that this is clearly across the line. This is unprecedented. The courts found that the mandates in Obamacare were over the line and that they were unconstitutional. We expect a similar finding here, but in the meantime, we need to be ready. We need to be ready to, if it's going to take a lawsuit or continued litigation, that's probably going to take some funding. It'll be along those lines where you'll see our preparation.
And that's something that's topic to jobs. With this Eastern Idaho, we have the national lab here in Idaho Falls, and a number of people have passed that deadline locally and have already either quit or been let go. And a lot of companies are left wondering, how do we move forward with this? What would you say is
well, I certainly empathize and sympathize. I mean, I have family members that are in similar situations, and so the Biden administration forced this, and we have got to get those set aside. And like I said, the first step or the first piece of that happened over the weekend for businesses with 100 or more employees. We're optimistic that this coming week they will block the requirements of federal contractors, which is not just INL, but there are a lot of business. Anyone that's in healthcare as a Medicare provider, if you receive any federal money, that net caught you. And frankly, requiring it of all federal workers. I mean, we were looking for firefighters last summer, and those are United States Forest Service or Department of Interior, and we didn't have enough firefighters as it was. The waiting lines at the Department of Veterans, the Veterans Administration is already long enough. We can't afford to lose labor there. Ditto at Social Security Administration. So I think cooler heads will prevail. I'm optimistic that these circuit courts, particularly those that have a track record, these are the same circuit courts that blocked the Obamacare mandates. I believe that they'll follow suit and that help is coming, but the state needs to stand ready to support these lawsuits and to stand up for our state's rights.
Well, thank you again for taking the time to kind of come out of your way on your trip around Eastern Idaho.
We were going to Soda Springs anyway.
Soda Springs is always a fun spot. So again, thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome, Eric. Thank you.